Good evening and welcome to a special edition of the RO Sports Show. We're continuing called the Raider Wrap Up. Now we finished it last week, the end of the season, with Dion and myself. But of course, we wanted to bring on head coach Brian Till. So thanks for joining us, Coach. Now, first question here. You guys were 7-5 last year with a first round playoff exit. This year, the Raiders were 11-2. You guys had the number 2 seed in the West. Off the bat here, what are some of the differences that you've noticed over the last 2 years with the program?
Well, first off, the buy-in from our players and coaches and understanding of what it's going to take to be a consistent winner. You know, we had a lot of that communication coming into that first year, but, you know, when a group of young men like this last year's seniors that had 3 head coaches, you know, during that time, sometimes that stuff seems like just, you know, rote memorization. Okay, it just becomes cliche. These guys really bought in to that and really committed themselves, both the coaches and the kids, and so we really saw that, and it was a lot of fun to watch through the course of building into the season.
And talking about the kids, what were some of the team's goals this season overall, and how many of those were you guys able to accomplish this year?
Well, obviously, the one that's most frustrating is not reaching the state championship
Right.
and getting a chance to win it. But we talked about wanting to have a winning record. When we sat down with the leadership council, one of the things we did is kind of come up with those goals. We wanted to have a winning record in the offseason, which meant we had to win 3 out of 4 of those. Now, it didn't mean we weren't trying to win 4 out of 4, but
Right.
we said, hey, we've got a tough, I say offseason, out of conference schedule. We've got a tough out of conference schedule. Let's make sure we do that and win that. We wanted to win the conference. First time we've done that in 8 years. We wanted to beat Scotland. You know, it's the only. It's funny, but they're rivals, so this happens.
Sure, yeah.
That was really the only conference goal we set, other than win it. Is hey, we want to beat our rivals.
Right.
You know, and you put that in with obviously the off-season goal of having guys participate, 90 guys participate. We ended up having 96, being in a 100% club. So those are the things we reached, and obviously we missed on the very last one, but we did get to a lot of the things we had really set forth as goals for us this year.
And talking about Scotland and the conference in general, how important was it to end Scotland's reign as champion?
Well, I think it's extremely important for our community, for our kids. You know, there are a lot of people here who they remember beating Scotland a lot, and they tell our kids about it. But the reality of actually being able to do that when the kids who are 16, if it's been 8 years, that's half their life,
Right.
and really the first 8 years, do they remember a lot of football?
Right.
You know, so what do they remember, and what's in order to know you can do something, you have to believe you can do it first. In order for that to happen, you have to believe it first, and being able to do that makes it more believable. And I think that's one of the reasons we did as well. Our kids believed, you know, that's why it hurt so bad. You know, a couple weeks ago when we did lose that ball game, is we really believed we were going to win a state championship, and had generated that belief. So beating Scotland allows you to have the belief again that, hey, this is something that's going to happen, you know, in the future again too. And so I think the next several years, and they've got a good team coming back next year, and we've got a good group. I think it's going to be some really strong battles the next several years, and we look forward to it.
Yeah, I know people around here definitely look forward to the Battle of 74. Let's talk about some of the individual guys. So I want to start with Caleb Hood, quarterback. He was 129 for 222, so very efficient this year. Had almost 2,000 yards throwing the ball, 21 touchdowns. Both those numbers led the SAC. You know, another 600 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns. You know, the accolades go on and on. But how much did he grow this year as a sophomore?
I thought you saw him grow a lot. The things that you probably didn't see weren't on the field. I mean, the things that where he really grew weren't things that you saw on the field. You know, he became more vocal with some of his teammates off the field. In the weight room, he's an extremely hard worker. Not that he wasn't as a freshman, but now that was something, okay, I know what to do. I know how to do it. And, you know, his group works well, whatever group he's in, because Caleb works so well. In fact, he moved groups. He was working out with the linemen during the course of the season, you know, and it was just a pretty smart move by the quarterback. So, you know, those type of things you saw him do on his own. You saw the interaction he had with the wideouts who were in his class, you know, the 2 sophomores, especially, and Jacoby and Dalton, and see him interact with some of those other, CJ, who's actually on the defensive side of the ball, but see him interact with those other guys who don't have quite as much experience, but it's a positive interaction and a positive feel with those guys at practice. I think those are the places we saw him grow a bunch. On the field, you really saw him grow in the running game, you know, and we're going to continue to implement more of that in next year, reads and things where he can keep the ball. Last year, we protected him a lot because, honestly, even as good an athlete as he is, as a freshman, there's only so many licks you can take from a senior.
Right.
You know, and so physically now, though, just like last week, I think he squatted, right at 400 pounds and bench pressed 275 pounds and power clean like 265. I mean, that's a sophomore kid who happens to be a quarterback. Right. I mean, I'm ecstatic if that's numbers for some of our sophomore linemen and that's our sophomore quarterback. And so that physical change in his body that's allowed him to play the game has been big growth area too.
And speaking of running the ball, of course, junior Jaheim Covington, I'm going to throw his numbers out there too because they were also impressive. 157 carries, almost 1,200 yards rushing, 22 touchdowns. He averaged almost 98 yards a game. And I know starting out there was more of a kind of going to be a running back by committee, if you will, but it seems like Jaheim just took it and ran with it. No pun intended, right?
Well, no pun intended, or pun intended, whichever way you want to look at it. The committee thing was early on wasn't so much that we didn't believe in Jaheim or didn't know who, but they could kind of do some different things. Mm-hmm. But this is something I want. Hopefully, we've got some young guys watching this. Opportunities come your way in life. Sometimes by going after them, and sometimes just completely by accident. LaCyrus got injured, mm-hmm. and so Jaheim had more opportunities because of that. Is it something we want to happen? No, but just the ability he showed at that point in time to just shoulder the load as a ball carrier, which we kind of thought he had based on his weight room numbers, but him to get that opportunity, and then even the breakaway runs we got to see him kind of do as he got healthier and healthier. He was coming off of a little bit of a groin injury coming out of summer camp. So you talk about that running back by committee. Some of that was too to try and get him back. The Hurricane rest time, not the Hurricane itself, but the Hurricane rest time was actually probably the best thing for Jaheim. Mm-hmm. Because he came back so fresh after that, and just really that's when he put together his biggest streak of numbers was because of how fresh he was running the ball. His legs felt running the ball after that break.
Yeah, some of my favorite plays this year were watching him, hit the hole and he's gone. There was a couple of times we did some spin moves, some stiff arms. I loved it.
Well, it doesn't seem like one guy ever brought him down very often, if at all.
Let's talk about some other playmakers on the offensive side. 14 different players caught a pass this season. So
I didn't realize that until I read that the other day, I think, in an article. Wow.
Which is amazing, first of all. But Malik Stanback's ACL injury was obviously a blow early on to the team, so losing a playmaker like that. But talk about how so many other weapons stepped up as playmakers this year.
Well, then I think you're talking about Caleb's maturity. That was part of it, is his ability to distribute the ball to anybody. Those other guys, though, saw those opportunities. With Malik going down, I think it's all about perspective. Those kids, does everybody get, oh my God, what's happened? What are we going to do? Mm-hmm. Or do the guys who now are behind him go, okay, I've got an opportunity? And I think for the most part, our guys saw it as an opportunity for them while they hated it for their teammate. And so they were able to put themselves in those situations to get the ball because they were just pushing and competing at practice to have those opportunities. And we want to further that attitude, obviously, for those guys, even when they leave football, so that they'll continue to pursue any opportunity that could be coming their way. And that was a lot of fun to watch all those guys. And I read that the other day, and then you saying that, it's just fun to look back and see who all those guys are. Oh man, he did catch that ball there, and it's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, so let's flip from offense to the defense. Your side of the ball. You guys averaged 12.8 points per game against your defense. So first, talk about senior Jonathan Jones Jr. and what his leadership's meant this year to the defense.
I can't say enough about that young man. He's just taken his role as a leader very seriously. He took his role as a linebacker very seriously. We even had some of the guys talk about this week, and the coaches, we had talked about it several times. You go back and watch last year's film and watch John, and then you watch him. You can't even tell it's the same kid other than the jersey numbers. Right. And it's not because he didn't work hard here before, but just the transition he made from a commitment standpoint and holding other guys accountable. And John was a guy, too, that, the D-line guys, love him to death. Now, they all give each other a hard time, but they got a great rapport, and he has great rapport with his teammates, and he has great rapport with the guys on the back half, too. And so, he has his teammates' respect, and a lot of that's because of his work ethic. And, John, he never doesn't take a rep in practice. If he is subbed out for somebody else to get a rep, he always stands back where he can see the play. And that was no one told him to do that. And you hear coaches say, hey, that's a great idea. You need to really pay attention. But he took, ownership of that and went back and made sure he was watching every play and getting every rep mentally he could get. Yeah. And so just really proud of that young man, the achievements. I hope he gets an opportunity after school to play. He's what they say, undersized, but there's some things you can't measure, and the heart's one of them.
Right.
And he plays with a lot of it.
Absolutely. And his number is incredible, too. 123 total tackles, 72 solo tackles, 19 total tackles for losses, and 9 sacks. That's a heck of a way to finish your senior season. Now, we've mentioned quite a few names here, but throughout the season, any facet of the game, who's an unsung hero from the Raiders football team?
I don't know that they're unsung per se, but I would say the defensive line for our defense, they make some big splash plays with the sacks and things, but there's a lot of things they do that people don't notice. John being able to make some of those plays were because those guys are eating up double teams. Big A.J. Isaac, Eli was down there, and Divine and Rashid, and those guys who are all down in there doing dirty work. Same thing on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, the offensive line is doing a lot of dirty work. They have zero stats for what they do. You can keep pancakes and knockdowns and things like that, but it's not things that your average fan really recognizes. And just both those positions were really unsung things. I throw in there too. Both our kickers and Kyle Goodwin punting and Trevor Moss and with the kickoffs, because field position played a big part in us being able to play very good defense and also in having a short field for our offense to score. And that actually I think was the biggest difference in the Myers Park game.
Yeah.
Is it was a 7-7 ball game, 14-7 ball game when the field position was pretty even. We slipped down on a kickoff return, give up the ball on a 5, and they had field position the rest of the first half.
Yeah.
So both the punter and the kicker, and Trevor and Kyle, those guys probably don't get enough praise for how they helped us field position wise too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to flash back for a second. The first time I interviewed you was at the State of the Program address,
right.
if you will, which, by the way, I hope you continue to do.
Right.
And at that time, I asked you how important the student part of student athlete is. How much have your guys improved in that area of being a football player?
Well, that was something that when Kyle and I had talked about different things in an article, he had said, what are some moments, maybe 3 or 4 moments? And for me, that stood out in the program that kind of defined the program. Well, the first thing I said was 9% this summer. Mm-hmm. Okay. But then the very next thing was when we took the picture, I think it was like 64 kids of ours were on the AB honor roll this year at the 9 weeks. Yeah. And now we want them to finish the semester there,
right.
Obviously, and we're tracking those grades, but to have that many guys kind of make that transition and understand that that's important, that was a great feeling of those guys really taking that message. You look at, like I said that about John, having an opportunity, he's got a great GPA. We've got several of our guys, Jordan Wall and Trevor Whittington have GPAs over 4. And they're both starters, one on offense, one on defense. Mm-hmm. So we feel like our kids really have bought into that. And honestly, I want to give a lot of credit to Coach Jones and to down at the 9th grade and Coach Johnson for going ahead and making that important with our freshmen, because it has to start there.
Right.
The thing we want to do is we want to start, and we talk with the middle schools every year, but going ahead and doing our best to make parents and those kids aware of when they come into the high school how important that is for their future. So,
yeah. And then I want to ask you about make your link stronger, the phrase that Raiders been using all season. For those that don't know, I know you've talked to us about it a little bit, but for those that don't know, what exactly does that mean? And is that something that the program is going to continue moving forward?
We'll continue it. We're going to try and use it as a nuance each year. Let each group have their link in it, so to speak. The idea behind that was, when working with our leadership council, we wanted to have a way of identifying with our heritage. Here it's such a rich football tradition we have, and we want to identify with it, but we also want to say, hey, well, how are we taking this forward? And we looked at the stripe on the helmet initially, and I started talking about make your link strong in the weight room. Okay, what is your part in the team? And our leadership council kind of picked up on, hey, if we're looking at that, they also, this is our link to our community. And so with that, it's each of these kids, it's supposed to represent several things. Each of these kids' individual part on the team, regardless of what it is, whether it's on Friday night or whether it's just, being able to be a good teammate and practice hard during the week. If it's being good teammate in the school and representing our program here and there in the community. And then it's supposed to also, making your link stronger, our link to all the teams that have come before us and the reputation that we carry with us. And then what we're trying to do is get the community aspect involved in that too. So, okay, so many of our former Raider players are here in this community. Raider moms, their kids, they were part of our moms club who were here in this community, continuing to be a part of our group, our businesses. And, we saw a great outpouring of support before the Myers Park game where we started getting pictures of people changing their signs and putting their signs up, go Raiders and good luck Raiders and those kind of things, that everybody knowing that we're all part of this together. There's only a few folks who get the plays on Friday night, but there's no ego here from myself, the kids, the coaches to think that, hey, we're the show. That's what it's about. We understand, and helping the next group of guys who come in as freshmen understand how we're all tied together, and just really appreciating. You can't be like this everywhere in North Carolina.
Right, yeah.
We got a great situation here in Richmond County.
Very well said. Final question, Coach. I know your Georgia Bulldogs didn't make the CFP, but who you got winning the national championship?
I'm going Alabama. Until somebody proves otherwise. I will say this: I'm a big fan of how they're doing things down in Clemson, and I think they've got as good a shot as anybody. And I hated not seeing the Dogs make it. Yeah. I hated it, but I think it's tough. We did it to ourselves. We beat LSU. We got a case.
Right. Yep.
We didn't win that ball game, so we can't blame it on anybody else. Oklahoma's a conference champ. Yeah. They got one loss. It's their turn.
Yeah. Being an ACC fan, I'm going to go Clemson, but I think you obviously can't go wrong with Alabama as well. So maybe next year for your Bulldogs.
Hopefully.
They're talented for sure. But anyway, that's going to do it for the Ross Raider wrap-up. Head coach Brian Till, we really appreciate it, Coach. And, of course, you can catch all of the new different ways we're coming out with the RO Sports Show now 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday across all the RO platforms, and it's all free. Really appreciate you for tuning in. We'll see you next week.